Okay. Go live. Okay. Oh, good. I'm streaming. Nice. Very nice. Very nice. You would not believe how much of a hassle it is now. There's still a little bit of kinks, but uh, I have a new streaming software for my podcast and whatever else I'd like to do. Uh, the first kinks to be worked out ended up in the losing of a podcast episode I did yesterday. But no matter, I will have my next podcast with my friend Carl soon enough. All right. Tonight, what I would like to, or not tonight, jeez. Today, what I would like to do is I would like to read Journey to the West. I noticed that there is a problem sometimes with the niche community of audiobooks on YouTube, is that some books just no one wants to cover. Now, granted, some are like Stephen King books, so it's like, okay, yeah, that kind of sucks, but copyright's copyright. So what I would like to do is today, at least, is to read Journey to the West. Now, obviously, this is not going to be a one-time thing. Journey to the West, at least the volume I have, is a 4-volume book, each about the size of the kind of like Twilight version of the Stephen King books, like Salem's Lot. They're like, if I look here, yeah, 500 pages ish. So 4 volumes of that. So that is what I will be doing today. All right. So let me get into this. Get past the introduction. Introduction. Jeez. Here we are. And it has very nice illustrations. I wish I could show you them, but kind of sucks. Alright. Get past the table of contents, and here we are. Chapter 1. The divine root of conceivance and the spring breaks forth. As the heart's nature is cultivated, the great way arises. Before chaos was divided, heaven and earth were one. All was a shapeless blur, and no men had appeared. Once Pangu, I hope that's correct, that would be awful if it wasn't. Once Pangu destroyed the enormous vagueness, the separation of clear and impure began. Living things have always tended towards humanity. From their creation, all things improve. If you wanted to know about the creation of time, read Difficulties Resolved on the Journey to the West. Wait, hold up. Is that just like a prologue? What was that? Okay. Now within a single day, the positive begins at time 1, and at time 2, the cock crows. At 3, it is not quite light. At 4, the sun rises. 5 is after breakfast. And at 6, one does business. 7 is when the sun reaches noon. And 8 is it is slipping towards the west. 9 is late afternoon, and the sun sets at 10. 11 is dusk, and at 12 people settle down for the night. If you compare this with the big numbers, then at the end of phase 11, heaven and earth are still one, and no beings had appeared. 5,400 years later came the beginning of phase 12. when all was darkness and there was still no people or other creatures. For this reason it is called chaos. Another 5,400 years later came phase 12, withdrawing to a close, and a new cycle was about to begin. At phase 1 of the new era approached, gradually there was light. As Xiao Yong said, when winter reaches the midpoint of phase 1, the heart of heaven does not move. The positive first appears, nothing has yet come to life. At this time, heaven first had a foundation. 5,400 years later, in the middle of phase 1, the light and pure rose upward, and sun, moon, stars, and constellations were created. These were called the four images, hence the saying, heaven began in one. Another 5,400 years later, when phase 1 was nearing its end and phase 2 was imminent, things gradually solidified. As the Book of Changes says, great is the positive, far-reaching is the negative. All things are endowed and born in accordance with heaven. This was when the earth began to congeal. At 5,400 more years came the height of phase 2, when the heavy and impure solidified. Water, fire, mountains, stone, and earth came into being. These 5 were called the 5 movers. Therefore, it is said that the earth was created in phase 2. After a further 5,400 years, at the end of phase 2 and the beginning of phase 3, all living things were created. In the words of the Book of the Calendar, this essence of the sky came down, and the essence of the earth went up, and heaven and earth intermingled, and all creatures were born. Then heaven was bright, and earth was fresh, and positive, and the positive intermingled with the negative. 5,400 years later, when phase 3 was at its height, men, birds, and beasts were created. Thus the 3 powers, heaven, earth, and man, now set their places. Therefore, it is said that man was created in phase 3. Moved by Pangu's creation, the 3 emperors put the world in order, and the 5 rulers laid down the moral code. The world was then divided into 4 great continents: the eastern continent of the superior body, the western continent of cattle gift, the southern continent of Jambu, and the northern continent of Karoo. This book deals only with the eastern continent of superior body. Beyond the seas there is a country called Aeolai. This country is next to an ocean, and in the middle of the ocean is a famous island called the Mountain of Flowers and Fruit. Now, this is just... Oh. Hold up. I'm your big... That's very funny, Carl. Yeah, sorry. So, contrary to popular belief, I know that sounded like a bunch of Genesis stuff, but in some of these older books, like all that Greek mythology stuff, came from the Odyssey, like the epics, like the Odyssey and the Iliad and Hesiod's Theogony. And obviously, you can't really go into some great epic books, right, without getting a little mythological background. It happens. Yeah, I'll speak up. Jeez. It stills the ocean with its might. It awes the jade sea into calm. It stills the ocean with its might. The tides wash its silver slopes, and the fish swim into its caves. It awes the jade sea into calm. Amid the snowy breakers, the sea serpent rises from the deep. It rises high in the corner of the world where fire and wood meet. Its summits towers above the eastern sea. red cliffs and strange rocks, beetling crags and jagged peaks. On the red cliff, phoenixes sing in pairs. Lone unicorns lie before the beetling crags. The cry of pheasants is heard upon the peaks. In caves the dragons come and go. There are deer of long life and magic foxes in the woods. Miraculous birds and black cranes in the trees. There are flowers of jade and strange plants that wither not. Green pine and bluish cypress. Green pine and bluish cypress, ever in leaf. Magic peaches always in fruit. Clouds gather round the tall bamboo. The wisteria, I hope that's correct, the wisteria grows thick and around the mountain brook, and the banks around newly colored with flowers. It is the heaven's supporting pillar, where all the rivers meet. The earth's root, unchanged through a myriad eons. There was once a magic stone on top of this mountain, which was 36 feet 5 inches high, and 24 feet round. It was 36 feet 5 inches high to correspond with the 365 degrees of the heavens, and 24 feet round to match the 24 divisions of the solar calendar. On top of it were 9 apertures and 8 holes for the 9 palaces in the 8 trigrams. There was no trees around it to give shade, but magic fungus and orchids clung to its side. Ever since creation began, it had been receiving the truth of heaven, and the beauty of earth, the essence of the sun, and the splendor of the moon. And as it had been influenced by them for so long, it had miraculous powers. It developed a magic womb, which burst open one day to produce a stone egg about the size of a ball. Oh? Something going on with that recording? Hope not. That would suck. Seems to be still counting. I'll take that as a good sign. Alright. When the wind blew on this egg, it turned into a stone monkey, complete with the 5 senses and 4 limbs. When the stone monkey had learnt to crawl and walk, he bowed to each of the 4 quarters. And as his eyes moved, 2 beams of golden light shot towards the pole star palace, and startled the supreme heavenly sage, the great compassionate Jade Emperor of the azure vault of heaven, who was sitting surrounded by his immortal ministers on his throne in the hall of miraculous mist in the golden gated cloud palace. When he saw the dazzling golden light, he ordered 1,000-mile eye and wind swoop accompanying ear to open the southern gate of heaven and take a look. The 2 officers went out through the gate in obedience to imperial command, and while one observed what was going on the other listened carefully. Soon afterwards they reported back. In obedience to the imperial mandate, your subjects observed and listened to the source of the golden light. We found at the edge of the country of Auli, which is east of the ocean belonging to the eastern continent of the superior body. There is an island called the Mountain of the Flowers and Fruit. A magic stone on top of this mountain produced a magic egg, and when the wind blew on this egg, it turned into a stone monkey, which bowed to each of the 4 corners. When it moved his eyes, golden light shot towards the pole star palace. But now that he's eating, drinking, the golden light is gradually dying. In his benevolence and mercy, the Jade Emperor said, "Creatures down below are born of the essence of heaven and earth. There is nothing remarkable about them." On this mountain, the monkey was soon able to run and jump and feed on plants and trees, drink from the brooks and springs, pick mountain flowers, and look for fruit. Yep, thank you. He made friends with the wolves and went around with the tigers and leopards, was on good terms with the deer. He had the other monkeys and apes for relations. At night he slept under the rock faces, and he roamed around the peaks and caves by day. As the saying so rightly goes, there is no calendar in the mountains, and when winter's over you don't know the time of year. On hot mornings he and all the other monkeys would play under the shade in some pine trees to avoid the heat, and look at them all, climbing trees, picking flowers, looking for fruit, throwing pellets, playing knucklebones, running round sandy hollows, building stone pangadas? Never heard of that. Excuse me. Chasing dragonflies and catching locusts, worshipping the sky and visiting the Jesus Christ. Bohistavas? Hopefully that's not the correct one. Tearing off creepers and weaving straw hats, catching fleas and popping them with their teeth and fingers, grooming their coats and sharpening their nails, beating, scratching, pushing, squeezing, squashing, tearing, and tucking. Playing all over the place under the pine trees, washing themselves beside the green stream. After playing, the monkeys would go and bathe in the stream, a mountain torrent that tumbled along like rolling melons. There is an old saying, birds have bird language, and other animals have animal talk. All the monkeys said to each other, I wonder where the water comes from. We've got nothing else to do today, so wouldn't it be fun to go upstream and find the source? With a shout they all ran off, leading their children, and calling their brothers. They climbed up the mountain beside the stream until they reached its source, where the waterfall cascaded with a spring. They saw one white rainbow arching, a thousand strands of flying snow, unbroken by the sea winds. There, under the moon, cold air divides the greeny crags, splashes moisten the mountainside. A noble waterfall cascades, hanging suspended like a curtain. The monkeys clasped their hands and exclaimed with delight, What lovely water! It must go all the way to the bottom of the mountain and join the waves of the sea. One monkey made a suggestion. If anyone is clever enough to go through the wall and find the source and come out in one piece, let's make him our king. When this challenge had been shouted 3 times, the stone monkey leapt out from the crowd and answered at the top of his voice, I'll go, I'll go. Splendid monkey indeed. Today he will make his name. Tomorrow his destiny shall triumph. He is fated to live here. As a king, he will enter the immortal's palace. Watch him as he shuts his eyes, crouch and sprang, leaping straight into the waterfall. He opened his eyes and raised his head to look around. He saw neither water nor waves. A bridge stood in front of him, as large as life. He stopped and calmed himself, and took a closer look. That the bridge was made of iron. The water that rushed under it poured out through a fissure in the rocks, screening the gateway to a bridge. He started walking around towards the bridge, and as he looked he made out what seemed to be a house. It was a really good place, he saw. Emerald moss piled up in heaps of blue, white clouds like drifting jade. While the light flickered among wisps of colored mist, a quiet house with peaceful windows, flowers growing on the smooth bench, dragon pearls hanging in niches, exotic blooms all around, traces of fire beside the stove, the scraps of food in vessels by the table, adorable stone chairs and beds, even better stone plates and bowls, 1 or 2 tall bamboos, 3 or 4 sprigs of plum blossom, a few pines that always attract rain, all just like a real home. He took a good long look, and then scampered to the middle of the bridge, from where he noticed a stone tablet, and on the tablet had been carved in big square letters, "Happy land of the mountain flowers and fruit, cave heaven of the water curtain." The stone monkey was beside himself with glee. He rushed away, shut his eyes, crouched, and leaped back through the waterfall. "We're in luck, we're in luck," he said with a chuckle. All the other monkeys crowded round him, asking, "What's it like in there? How deep is the water?" "There is no water, none at all," replied the stone monkey. "There's an iron bridge, and on the other side of the bridge there's a house that must have been made by heaven and earth." "However could you see a house there?" the monkeys asked. The stone monkey chuckled. "The water here comes under a bridge, and through the rocks. It hides the gateway to the bridge from view. There are flowers and trees by the bridge, a stone house too. Inside the house are stone rooms, a stone stove, stone bowls, stone plates, stone beds, and even stone benches. And all in the middle of it all, a tablet says, 'Happy land of the mountain of flowers and fruit, cave heaven of the water curtain.' It's just the place for us to settle down in. There's a room there for thousands. Let's all move in. Then we won't have to put up with any more nonsense from heaven in there. We can hide there from the wind, and shelter from the rain, with nothing to fear from frost and snow, and never a rumble of thunder. The colored mists glow bright, and the place smells lucky. The pine and bamboo will always be beautiful, and where flowers will blossom every day." The other monkeys were all so delighted to hear this, and that they said, "You go first, and take us with you." The stone monkey shut his eyes, crouched, and leapt again, shouting, "Follow me in, follow me in." The brave monkeys jumped through, the more timid ones peered forward, shrank back, rubbed their ears, scratched their cheeks, shouted, and yelled at the top of their voices before going in, all clinging to each other. After rushing across the bridge, they all grabbed plates and snatched bowls, banged stoves, and fought over beds, and moved everything around. Monkeys are born naughty, and they could not keep quiet for a single moment until they had worn themselves out moving things around. The stone monkey sat himself at the main seat and said, "Gentlemen, a man who brings his word is worthless. Just now that you said if anyone was ever clever enough to come in here and get out in one piece, you'd make him king. Well then, I have come in and out, come in and gone out and come in. I have found you gentlemen a cave haven, where you can sleep in peace and settle down to lives in bliss. Why haven't you made me king?" On this hearing, all monkeys bowed to him and prostrated themselves, daring not to disobey. They lined up in groups, in order of age, and paid their homage as at a court, all acclaiming him as the great king of 1,000 years. The stone monkey then took the throne, made the word stone taboo, called himself the handsome Monkey King. There is a poem to prove that it goes. All things are born from three positives. The magic stone was quick with the ensigns of the sun and the moon. The egg turned into a monkey to complete the great way. He was lent the name so that the elixir would be complete. Looking inside, he perceives nothing but because it is no form. Outside, he uses his intelligence to create visible things. Men have always been like this. Those who are called kings and sages just do as they wish. Yes, prostrate themselves, Carl. You know why. Taking control of his host of monkeys, apes, gibbons, and others, the handsome Monkey King divided them into rulers and subjects, assistants and officers. In the morning they roamed the mountain of flowers and fruit, and in the evening they sailed down for the night in the water-curtained cave. Excuse me. They made a compact that they would not join the ranks of the birds or go with the running beasts. They had their own king, and they thoroughly enjoyed themselves. In the spring they picked flowers for food and drink. In the summer they lived off fruit. In the autumn they gathered taros and chestnuts. They got through the winter on Solomon's seal. The handsome Monkey King, innocent, high spirits, could not, of course, last 300 or 400 years. One day he suddenly felt depressed during a banquet with all his monkey hosts, and he started to weep. The startled monkeys crowded him and bowed to him and said, "What is the matter, your majesty?" "Although I am happy now," the Monkey King replied, "I am worried about the future. That's what's getting me down." The other monkeys laughed and said, "Your majesty is being greedy. We have parties every day. We live in a mountain paradise, in an ancient cave and divine continent. We are spared the rule of unicorns, the domination of phoenixes, and the restraint of human kings. We are free to do just as we like. We are infinitely lucky. Why make yourself miserable worrying about the future?" To this the Monkey King replied, "Yes, we don't have to submit to the laws and the regulations of human kings. We don't have to live in terror of the birds and the beasts. But the time will come when we are old and weak, and the underworld is controlled by kings of hell. When the time comes for us to die, we won't be able to go on living among the blessed, and our lives will be in vain." The monkeys covered their faces and wept as every one of them thought about death. Suddenly a gibbon jumped out from the ranks and with a shrieked and piercing voice, "If your majesty is thinking so far ahead, this is the beginning of enlightenment. Now the 5 creatures, there are only 3 that do not come under the jurisdiction of the King of Hell." "Do you know which they are?" asked the Monkey King. "Yes," the ape replied. "They are the Buddhas, the immortals, and the sages. They are free from the wheel of reincarnation. They are not born, and they do not die. They are as eternal as heaven and earth, as the mountains and the rivers." "Where do they live?" the Monkey King asked. "Only in the human world," the ape replied, "in ancient caves on magic mountains." The Monkey King was delighted to hear this. "I shall leave you all tomorrow, and go down the mountain, if I have to. I'll roam the corners of the ocean, and go to the edge of the sky to find these 3 kinds of beings, and discover the secret of eternal youth that'll keep us out of the clutches of the King of Hell forever." Now, funnily enough, that's the exact same quest of Gilgamesh, except it actually goes well for Sin Wukong, as he'll come to be known. Alright. Yes, goodness, because of these words he was to learn how to be free from the wheel of reincarnation, and become the great sage equaling heaven. All the monkeys clapped, and with approval said, "Great, great! Tomorrow we'll all climb over the mountain and give lots of fruit to your majesty, a really big banquet to send you off." The next day the monkeys set out to pick magic peaches, gather rare fruits, and dig out yams, and cut Solomon's seal. Magic fungus and fragrant orchid were collected, and everything was set on stone henches and stone tablets, with fairy wine and dishes you could see. Golden pills and pearl pellets, bursting the red plump yellow. The golden pills and pearl pellets were winter cherries, beautiful and sweet. Bursting red plump yellow were ripe plums, tasty and sharp. Fresh, sweet, fleshed logans with thin skins. fiery lichens with tiny stones in a red sack. Branch after branch of crab apples, yellow-skinned loquets in there with their leaves on, rabbit head pears, and chicken heart jujubes, to quench your thirst and remove your cares, and sober you up. Fragrant peaches and tender apricots, as sweet and luscious as jade wine. Crisp plums and arbutus, as sharp as glistening yogurt. Ripe melons and red coats and black seeds. Big four-sectioned persimmons with yellow skins. Bursting pomegranates. Cinnabar pips shining like fire crystal pearls. Opened water chestnuts with firm, round flesh like golden agate. Walnuts and ginkgo fruits to eat with tea. Coconuts and grapes to make into wine. Dishes loaded with pine cones, yew-nuts, filberts, and crab apples. Tangerines, sugarcane, and oranges covering the table. Hot roast yams, tender boiled Solomon seal. Pounded china root and Job's tears, simmered in soup in a stone pot. Although we humans have rare delicacies to eat, we are no happier than these monkeys in the moment. The host of monkeys ushered the handsome Monkey King. The seat of honor that sat down below him, according to the age. Each of them took it in turns to bring him wine, flowers and fruit, and they drank for a whole day. The next morning the handsome Monkey King got up early and ordered, "Children, tear down some old pines and make me a raft. Find a bamboo pole to punt and load it up with fruit. I am going." He went abroad by the raft all himself, pushed off with all his might, and floated towards the waves of the ocean. He intended to sail with the wind across over the southern Jambu continent. The heaven-born monkey, whose conduct was so noble, left the island to drift with heaven's winds. He sailed oceans and seas to find the way of immortality, deeply determined to do a great deed. The predestined one should not have vulgar longings. He can only attain the primal truth without care or worry. He is bound to find a kindred spirit, to explain the origins of laws in nature. He had chosen just the right time for his journey. After he boarded his raft, the southeasterly wind blew hard for days on end and bore him to the northwestern shore of the southern continent. Testing the depth of the water with his pole, he found that it was shallow, so that he abandoned the raft and jumped ashore. He saw humans by the coast, fishing, hunting geese, gathering clams, and extracting salt. He went up to them, leaping around and making faces, which so scared them as they dropped their baskets and nets and fled all in directions as fast as they could. The Monkey King grabbed one of them, who was a poor runner, stripped him of his clothes, and dressed in them like a human. He swaggered through the provinces and prefectures, learning human behavior and human speech in the marketplaces. Whether he was eating his breakfast or going to bed at night, he was always asking about Buddhas, immortals, and sages, and seeking the secret of eternal youth. He observed that the people of the world were too concerned with fame and fortune to be interested in their fates. When the will struggle for the fame and fortune end, toiling from morning till night, never pleasing yourself. Those who ride donkeys long for stallions. The Prime Minister always wants to be prince. They only worry about having to stop to work for dress. They never fear that the King of Hell will come to get them. When trying to ensure their sons and grandsons inherit wealth and power, they have no time to stop and drink. Although he asked about the way of the immortals, the Monkey King was unable to meet one. He spent 8 or 9 years in the southern Jambu continent, going through the Great Walls and visiting little counties. He found that he had reached the great western ocean. He thought there must be sages and mortals on the other side of it, so he made himself another raft like the last one, and floated across the western continent until he came to the western continent of Cattle Gift. He went ashore and made extensive and lengthy inquiries, until one day he came upon a high and beautiful mountain, thickly forested on its lower slopes. Not fearing wolves, and undaunted by tigers or leopards, he climbed to the summit to see the view, and it was indeed a fine mountain. 1,000 peaks, brandishing halberds, screens 10,000 measures tall. In the sunlight, the mountain haze was lightly touched with blue. After the rain, the black rocks look coldly green. Withered creepers coil around ancient trees, and the old ford marks the bounds of the mysterious, strange flowers and precious plants, flourishing in all 4 seasons, rivaling fairyland. The nearby cry of hidden bird, the clear running of a spring, valley upon valley of mushrooms and orchid. Lichen grows over the cliff. The range rises and dips in dragon-like majesty. Surely there must be a lofty hermit here. As he was looking at the view, the Monkey King heard a human voice coming from the depths of the forest. He rushed into the trees, and when he cocked his ear to listen, he heard a song. Watching the chess game, I cut through the rotten, felling trees, ding ding. Strolling at the edge of the cloud in the I'm not even gonna try to sing again. Nope. Strolling at the edge of the cloud and mouth of the valley, I sell firewood and buy wine, cackling with laughter and perfectly happy. I pillow myself on pine root, looking up at the moon. When I wake up to its light, recognizing the old forest, I scale cliffs and cross ridges, cutting down withered creepers with my axe. When I'm gathered a basketful, I walk down to the market with a song, and I trade it for 3 pints of rice. Nobody else competes with me, so prices are stable. I don't speculate or try sharp practice. Couldn't care less of what people think of me. Calmly lengthening my days, the people I meet are Taoists and immortals, sitting quietly expounding the yellow core. Just gonna be real quick, I need a drink. Thank you. Now back. I'm gonna take this moment, see how many more is in the chapter. So I knew it was gonna be quite a long one, just because I know the journey to the west is there's a reason why most of the story is long. So during the course of the journey, I won't, spoil what the journey's about quite yet, because I don't know, if you haven't heard of it, I won't mention it. But part of the journey is fighting a bunch of demons, and that happens actually a lot sometimes in Chinese mythology. Is the fighting of demons and creatures, right? And that's a lot of what the journey is. That's why it's a long book. But anyway, back to the reading. We're almost done, like a few more pages. The Monkey King was overjoyed to hear this, and he said with glee, "So this is where the immortals have been hiding." He bounded deeper into the woods for a closer look, and saw that the singer was a woodcutter cutting firewood. He was wearing the most unusual clothes. On his head he wore a hat, so weird, woven from the first skin shed by new bamboo shoots. The clothes on his body were made of yarn from the wild country. A little weird, but alright. The belt was around his waist, was of silk and from an old silkworm. How do you know that? The straw sandals under his feet. He had straps torn from rotten sago trees. In his hand he held a steel axe. On his back he carried hempen rope. At the climbing pines and felling dell trees, who was a match for this woodcutter? The Monkey King went closer and called to him. Old Immortal, your disciple greets you. The woodcutter dropped his axe in astonishment and turned around to say, No, no, I don't even have enough to eat and drink, so how can I possibly let you call me an immortal? If you're not immortal, the Monkey King says, why do you talk like one? I don't talk like an immortal, the woodcutter said. At the edge of the wood just now, the monkey said, I heard you say, the people I meet are Taoists and immortals. Saying quietly, expounding the Magnifang. The Magnifang contains the truth about the way. So if you're not an immortal, what are you? The woodcutter laughed. It's quite true that the song is called Fragrance of the Magnifang, and an immortal who lives near my hut taught me it. He said, he saw how I heard and how I had to work, and how I was always worried. So he made me sing the song. He made me sing the song when things were getting down. It lightens my cares and makes me forget my weariness. I was singing it just now because I had a problem on my mind. I never imagined that you might be listening. If you got an immortal for a neighbor, you ought to learn from him how to cultivate your conduct and get him to teach you a recipe for eternal youth. I've had a hard life, the woodcutter replied. My mother and father brought me up until I was about 8, and just when I was beginning. What's going on here? Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. Who cares about buffering? Jeez. Like, come on. Meant to scare me? Pfft, disgusting. Anyway. I don't know, it's just something that appeared up. Not a problem. Alright, okay, there we are. And just when I was beginning to know about my life, my father died. My mother remained a widow, and I had no brothers or sisters. As I was the only child, I had to look after my mother, morning and night. Now she is old, and I can't possibly leave her. Our land is so overgrown that I cannot grow enough to feed and clothe both of us. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just a weird thing. Like, earlier it gave me a weird notification, so I'm like, what? It's probably just nothing. Oh, okay. So I have to cut a couple of bundles of firewood to sell in the market, as a handful of coppers to buy a few pints of rice that I can cook for myself and my mother. That's why I can't cultivate my conduct. From what you say, the Monkey King replied, you're a filial son and a gentleman. You're bound to be rewarded for it one day, and I'd be grateful if you can show me where the immortal lives, so that I can go and pay him my respects. The woodcutter said, it's not far from here. This mountain is the spirit tower of Heart Mountain, and in it there is a cave of setting moon and 3 stars. That is the cave. In that cave lives an immortal called Patriarch Patriarch Subhuti. Excuse me. I don't know how many disciples he has trained. There are 30 or 40 of them cultivating their conduct with him at the moment. If you take that path south for 2 or 3 miles, you'll reach his home. The Monkey King tugged at the woodcutter and said, Take me there, elder brother. If I get anything out of this, I won't forget your kindness. You idiot, the woodcutter replied. Don't you understand what I told you just now? If I went with you, I wouldn't be able to earn my living. And who would look after my poor mother then? I've got to get on with my woodcutting. Go by yourself. After hearing this, the Monkey King had to take his leave. He came out of the forest and found the path, which led up to a mountain slope for 2 or 3 miles. That's damn. When he ca- when he ca- when he saw the cave, he pulled himself up to his full height to take a look. It was really a magnificent place. Misty clouds scattered colors, sun and moon shimmered light. Thousand, a thousand ancient cypresses and a thousand lofty bamboos. A thousand ancient cypresses. Typo? A soft green drawing the rain from the sky. 10,000 lofty bamboos. Okay. In a misty valley in azure blue. Outside the gate, where flowers spread brocade. Besides the bridge, wafts of scent of jade flowers. Rocky crags jut, glossy with green moss. And overhanging blue cliffs, blue lichen grows. Sometimes the call of the crane is heard, and often you see the phoenix soar. The call of the crane echoes beyond the ninth heaven and the Milky Way. When the phoenix soars, the brilliance of its wings colors the clouds. Black apes and white deer can be just made out. Golden lions and jade elephants prefer to keep hidden. If you look closely at this happy land, you will see that rivals paradise. He saw that the doors of the cave were shut fast, and everything was still, with no signs of any people. He turned around and noticed that there was a stone tablet about 30 feet high and about 8 feet wide at the top of the cliff. He just turned around and noticed this. How the fuck do they know about this? Yeah, I noticed that, but it's like, how do they know about the Milky Way? I don't know, it could just be a translation thing. Obviously, this was translated back into English at some point, so that the Milky Way might just be like the closest translation at the point of translating this. So who knows? What I'm wondering is how Seng Wukong, or the Monkey King at right now, just happened to turn around and notice. Yeah. Perception 2, Intelligence 29. Yep. The setting moon and 3 stars. Yep. The Monkey King acclaimed with delight. The people here really are honest. The mountain and cave do exist. He took a good long look, and did not dare knock on the door. He climbed to the end of a pine branch and ate some pine seeds to amuse himself. Before the doors of the cave opened with a creak, an immortal boy came out. In the nobility of his bearing and the exceptional purity of his features, he was completely different from an ordinary boy. Sorry, I had to burp. His hair was bound a pair of silken bands. His flowing gown had 2 capacious sleeves. Oh, capacious. His face and body were naturally distinguished. His mind and appearance were both empty. For many years, a guest beyond the world of things, an eternal child amid the mountains, untouched by any speck of dust, he let the years go tumbling by. When this boy came out and shouted, "Who's making that row out here?" The Monkey King scampered down the tree, went up to him, and said with a bow, "Immortal child, I am a disciple who has come asking the way and study under the immortal. Last thing I do would be able to make a row here." The boy laughed. "So you've come to ask about the way, have you?" "Yes," the Monkey King replied. "Our master has just got up," the boy said, "and now he has mounted the dais to expound the way. Before he had started to explain about the origins, he told me to open the door. There is someone outside who wants to cultivate his conduct. Go and welcome him. I suppose he must have meant you." "Yes, he meant me," the Monkey King said with a smile. "Come with me," the boy said. The Monkey King straightened his clothes and followed the boy deep into the depths of the cave. He saw majestic pavilions and towers of red jade, the pearl palaces and gateways of cowrie, the countless rooms of silence and secluded cells leading all the way to the jasper dais. He saw the patriarch Saputi sitting on the dais, about 36 minor immortals standing below it. A golden immortal of great intelligence, free from filth. Sabuti, the marvel of the Western world. Neither dying nor born, he practices the triple meditation, his spirit and soul entirely benevolent. In the empty detachment, he follows the charges. Having found to this true nature, he lets him run free. As eternal heaven and majestic in body, the great teacher of law is enlightened through aeons. As soon as the handsome Monkey King saw him, he bowed low and knocked his head on the ground before him many times. Kind of reminds me of that guy from My Hero Academia, who's like, he just bows so suddenly, he just hits the floor with his head, starts bleeding. Very shonen. And saying, "Master, Master," your disciple pays his deeper respects. "Where are you from?" the patriarch asked. "You must tell me your name and address before you can become my pupil." "I come from the water curtain cave and flowers and fruit mountain in the land of Aoi, in the eastern continent of the superior body." "You," replied the Monkey King. "Throw him out," the patriarch roared. "He's a liar and a cheat, and even if he tried cultivating his conduct, he would surely get nowhere." The Monkey King desperately kept hitting his head. "Granted, your disciple spoke the truth. I promise I wasn't lying," the patriarch asked. "If you were speaking the truth, then why do you say you come from the eastern continent of superior body? Between here and the eastern continent, there are 2 seas and the southern Jambu continent. So how could you possibly become here?" The Monkey King, still kowtowing, replied, "I sailed across seas and oceans. I crossed frontiers and wandered through many countries over 10 years before I arrived here." "So you came here by stages," the patriarch remarked. "What is your surname?" I'm not surly," the Monkey King replied. Oh, now I get it. It's like, geez, my intelligence too. "What is your surname?" "I'm not surly," the Monkey King replied. "If people call me names, it doesn't bother me, and if they hit me, I don't get angry. I'm just polite to them, and that's that. I've never been surly." "I don't ask if you were surly. I wanted to know your surname you inherited from your parents." "I don't have any parents," the Monkey King replied. "If you had no parents, did you grow on a tree?" "I grew not on a tree, but in a stone," the monkey replied. All I remember is that there was a magic stone at the top of the flower and fruit mountain, and that one year the stone split open. I was born." Concealing his delight at hearing this, the patriarch remarked, "So in other words, you were born of heaven and earth. Walk around for a moment and let me have a look at you." The Monkey King leapt to his feet and shambled around a couple of times. The patriarch smiled and said, "Though you have rather a base sort of body, you look like one of those rhesus monkeys that eat pine seeds." A little weird. "I ought to give you a surname that fits your appearance and call you, Humakas Maki. The elements that make up the character Hu, animal, old, and moon. That is an old. What is old and ancient, the moon embodies the negative principle, and what is ancient and negative cannot be transformed. But I think I would do much better to call you sun, monkey, apart from animal. Element and character sun are one part implying male and one part implying suggesting baby, which fits in with my basic theories about children. Your surname will be Sun." son. The Monkey King heard this and kowtowed with delight. Great, great. Now I have a surname, and I am eternally grateful to you for your mercy and compassion, master. I beg you to give me a personal name to go with my surname. Then it will be much easier to address me. There are 12 words within my sect, the patriarch said, which I give as names. You will belong to the 10th generation of my disciples. What are these 12 words? Asked the monkey. Broad, great, wisdom, intelligence, true, likeness, nature, see, bright, awakened, complete, and enlightenment. If we work out the generations of disciple, then you should have the name Wu, awakened, in it. So we can give you Dharma name Sen Wukong, which means monkey awakened to emptiness. Well, will that do? Marvelous, marvelous, said the smiling Monkey King. From now on, my name will be Sun Wukong. When the great vagueness had separated, there was no surnames. To smash foolishness, emptiness, he had been awakened to the emptiness. If you want to know what success he had been cultivating in his conduct, you must listen to the explanation in the next installment. Yeah, no, yes, sun, like, with an N. No, it's okay. But yeah, Wukong is basically spelled the same way. It's just Wu and Kong are the same word. Yep, Sun Wukong. Yep, and that was chapter 1 of the Journey to the West. It's actually a very nice epic with allegories to some of the things. Yep, it's a very interesting thing, and I would love to read it all for this channel. Just again, because I noticed no one really covers this book, or at least not in its entirety. So I thought it'd be a nice little thing for to put that out there on YouTube. All right. Yeah, I thought it was gonna be quite a long thing. Yep. All right, so that's 1 hour. All right. Time to end this bitch. Yep. I am Edmund Kerosene, and this has been a reading.